You guys, we got a good robust panel to have a heated conversation today about what's going on in the market. As some of you have been talking about, the market has shifted in the last 7 days dramatically, and we have Lisa Packard, Emily Phair, and the one and only Jay Schmidt on our panel today to have a great conversation around listings. What's happening with listings? What are sellers thinking? How are we having those conversations with sellers? And the commission conversation that I have own opinion on, so I would love to hear others as well. So let's rock and roll and just open the conversation to the three of you. Just talk openly about what you're seeing happening in the market with regards to listings. We know buyer pool is huge, but what are you thinking about listings? What's happening out there?
Ladies first.
Well, for me, we know it's a hot market, a lot of multiple offer situations, and I'm finding I have to educate sellers on that. There's a lot of people who, based on what they see in the media, feel like, oh, the market is, people aren't buying, or, because of the interest rates. So there's a lot of, I'm encountering a lot of conversations around like, actually, it's a very good time to sell. People are getting multiple offers. You don't have to be afraid of it. The interest rates aren't stopping people. And I guess I'm curious to hear if the other panelists are encountering that same conversation.
Definitely. I mean, I think most sellers I'm meeting with know it's a seller's market. So we still have to do a little bit more discussion about pricing your house right, prepping your house right. Like we still push pre-sale inspections. So that's been a conversation recently about, well, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do staging XYZ? So that's kind of been our biggest recent discussion, that since the market's so good, why don't we just put it on and see what happens?
Emily?
Yep. I echo what Jay just said. And I think I'll add that I think now more than ever, probably I say this all the time, but it's still and always about the fundamentals, about really keeping our sellers prepped for market. So even if it's a seller's market, and actually I can argue it's a buyer's market, but that's a whole other thing. But like, even in a seller's market, we still have to do a really good job at prepping the seller about the market. We have to prep the house. We have to do open houses and showings and negotiating like really, really well. It's not just slap a for sale sign on, get a bunch of offers, we're going to sell it for over. I mean, some agents do that, but that's not what we're about. It's really like basic fundamentals. Let's do a really good job at all of the basic things and get this house sold and like net the most. It's like, it's fundamentals. That's where we land on it.
Well, when we talk about this heated market and the quantity of offers that are being written and the quantity of buyers that are out there in the hunt and the low inventory, how are you coaching your sellers or having the discussion with your sellers about for sale by owner versus listing?
At least for me, oops, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say that hasn't come up for me. So Jay, take it.
Either.
Yeah, usually the listing appointments I'm going on, it's a sphere referral. So I'm not I'm not cold calling or so they're reaching out to me. So the fact that I'm sitting there, it usually isn't a discussion about the cheaper option. Yes, it comes down to, well, we interviewed 3 of you and, this agent will do, X, Y, and Z for this commission. And my favorite response is, in the absence of value, a seller's incentive to have you work with them is commission. So they will quickly give up their commission to work with you. They will also quickly give up your equity to get a deal accepted. So pick the agent that discounts themselves. They'll be quick to discount you as well in negotiations. So take your pick.
That's a good line. Actually, I've never used that. They'll be quick to discount you as well.
Yeah.
In your offers. That's a good final line that'll put stop everybody. I would agree. I'm not seeing much in the for sale by owner. Everybody always worries in history. Everybody always worries when the market picks up and it becomes a strong buyer's market, for sale by owner market explodes. But I have not seen that actually in a couple of years, and I'm certainly not seeing it now. I think the confusion for sellers is they're just so confused that they want proper direction to make sure they're doing everything right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We have a little bit more of a litigious world that we're in right now, and it's scaring the sellers to make sure they dot their I's and cross their T's, as it should, because this is true. You know, your property condition report, your disclosures, your agent walkthroughs, the agent property disclosure that you, I can't think of what it's called. What's that form called that we have to fill out as an agent that we've walked the questionnaire?
Yep.
Yeah.
Agent inspection, visual, like the visual
Agent
inspection.
Visual
Yeah.
inspection. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The only lawsuit I was ever involved with, the first thing the real estate attorney asked was, did you walk through the property and do you have proof of that? And I'm like, oh, here's my visual inspection walkthrough form filled out right after I walked through the property on that date a year and a half ago. So I can't implore enough that you have to fill that out and make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's. But that's what sellers are looking for you to do, protect them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. It's an interesting, now with regards to commission conversation,
Was that
how is
commission
that? I'm
compensation?
telling you, I think it's changed.
Oh, I think you're breaking,
Yeah,
is Maureen
commission
breaking up for
conversations, I
you?
think it's changed in the last 30 days. Okay, wait, how is that better? I just move this?
Now you're
Move that.
back.
I think you're good. You're
Uh,
back.
Okay. The commission conversation, so we've gotten past the, yes, the market's crazy strong where there's a lot of buyer demand, there's very little inventory, et cetera. But with that comes a conversation of commission, and we aren't even in a lawsuit conversation of commission, but just commissions in general. Let's start with that. How are you protecting your commission?
Mhm. Well, I'll go. Historically, I will admit that I did not have great commission conversations, in part because of what Jay was saying about, most of my listings for many, many years have been a come list me, a referral sphere, a repeat client. So those conversations were pretty easy. And then I leave the house and then my admin sends the paperwork. I don't even look at the paperwork. I assume they all say what, X%, but we basically never have that conversation, or very, very rarely. But now, maybe because of the lawsuit, but also just because of the market. Now I'm very cognizant about having those conversations, like really just bringing it to the table, like lay the fish on the table. Here's our commission. Here's what we're working toward. Here's your net proceeds, like really being intentional about that conversation. And I haven't had to do that, I would say maybe ever in my career until the last year or so. So it's been tough, but totally fruitful, because when I am transparent and really forthcoming, I find it's received really well. When I'm not, or when I sort of skip past that and just move to the next thing, it'll come back and either bite me, in not getting the listing, or having a rocky road, or just that like fear throughout the whole transaction that something's going to go south at some point because I never talked about it. So I would say now's the time to just lay it all out there, out in the open.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I like that. Get ahead of it on the front side with confidence and people won't question it, right?
Totally.
Kind of
Yep.
your perspective.
Totally.
Jay, Lisa?
I'll let you go, Lisa.
Okay. So you might, not all of you might know, but I'm a 72 sold agent.
Hmm.
So I run my listings a little bit differently. And one of the things that Greg Haig teaches us and is coaching us on right now is bifurcated compensation discussion, he calls it. So when I am speaking with if I'm in front of a seller and we get to the commission point, what I do is I talk about what my fee is. So I will say, my fee, what it costs to use my services is this % plus this fee. And then, it's up to you, seller, what you want to choose as far as buyer agent compensation, or if you want to at all. So I lay out the lawsuit stuff right out of the gate before we even get into what I just said. So I'll ask them if they're aware of the lawsuits, because I'd rather have them hear about it from me than I list and they're like, hey, am I really, can I get around paying a buyer agent? Like, what's this? How come you didn't tell me? So the first thing I do is, I'll say, are you familiar with how agents have been paid traditionally? And, yes or no, or I'll explain to them, traditionally you would pay a fee to your agent, and then a portion of that fee would be paid out to a buyer agent at closing. So the broker's getting paid and both agents are getting paid, the other broker's getting paid out of that fee that you agreed to pay. And now with the lawsuits, the DOJ would like to have it where the seller pays for their listing agent and the buyer pays for the buyer agent. And come July, it's a possibility that we won't be able to advertise any sort of compensation to a buyer agent at all. So then I'll go into, here's my fee. This is what you owe to me. This is what I'm worth and the services that I'm providing you that we just went over what they're worth. And then it's up to you what you want to pay a buyer agent, if anything. This is what they're used to. They're used to 2.4% in our area. And right now, no rules have changed. You can offer 2.4% or any percent you want on the MLS. But it's your choice. I can't tell you what to do. If you want to offer 3, if you want to offer 2, if you want to offer a flat fee, if you want to offer 0, it's up to you. But if you do offer 0 or you offer something very low, I can't tell you if that's going, it could negatively impact you, because most buyers, and well, I guess it depends on what price point I'm sitting in front of, but most buyers don't have the extra cash available to pay for that buyer agent. So we could run into a situation where if you experiment with that, where it might affect or, negatively impact how many showings and offers we get. However, it's your choice. If you want to try that, we can, and we can always change it if it's not working. So that's a right now conversation. And then if you want, I can get into, like, I don't know if you want to wait and hear what Jay has to say too, but if you want, I can get into what Greg Hague is advising as far as what to do come July when that if that buyer compensation commission or that field goes away in MLS, kind of a workaround for that.
Okay, let's hold on that one. I'm going to make notes on that to come back to that. Jay?
Couple things to defend our commission. I have my value proposition very clearly defined as to why I'm a 6% agent. Even so, I've been refining it and adding more and more to it because I did the same exercise as a buyer's agent. What's the value of a buyer's agent? So kind of rebuilt up our value proposition. For those of you that aren't on a team, I would use Keller Williams statistics. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you would agree the best price is when an agent does their job and casts the widest net. You want to hire me. I'm with Keller Williams, which is the largest brokerage in southeastern Wisconsin that has a collaborative environment of selling property. So hire me. I'm the largest brokerage in southeastern Wisconsin. So talk about that. I actually just used Charlie's recap of the week that was offers and what percentage over asking price and all of that with a seller. I've done it with a seller and a buyer now. The buyer signed buyer agency with me because that was really impactful. But I really know my value proposition. If they push back again about commission, I always do that. Okay, let's talk about what that 1% is. That 1%, your house is 600,000. That's $6,000. I'm pretty confident with all the things I showed you. I'm going to get you far more than $6,000 more. And if they still push back, I will put in my listing contract. If I believe we are priced right, if I take a house to market that's priced right, it's going to sell in multiple offers and it's going to be a great price. So let's say we're going to agree to a $699 list price, and I think it's going to sell for that or higher. Tell you what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if we have to drop our price below $699 before you accept that offer, let's review commission. And if I need to drop to 5%, I will do that. I believe in my ability to get you the best number. Now, mind you, if a seller is really trying to push price, am I going to quickly offer that up? No. But I'm coming to find more and more sellers when we review the comps, we focus a lot on here's the list price that it was. Here's what it sold for. Don't price your house now where that comp sold for. Price it somewhere between where it was listed and what the other comp sold for. Because you're now pricing yourself. You are in the market instead of being on the market. You are in that go spot. Remember, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's going to be hopefully multiple buyers that see your home and want to write offers. They go back to their home, the agent goes back to their computer, runs comps, and if they find several comps that justify that price and then some, you're going to see the offers start coming in. But if you're priced at that far edge of the market, I've had it happen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I had 19 showings on a property. I had 5 agents after their showing feedback, very interested. We expect to write an offer, and no offer came in. Guess what? They went home. That was a great showing because your house is great. They went home, reviewed the comps, and said, "Ooh, hold on a minute. We have to price your house right to get you the best offers. The quicker first offer comes in, the more healthy and robust the remaining offers are going to be. So let's price your house right." I'm sorry, I got onto pricing instead of just commission, but and then I say, price your house right. I'm confident in my ability. If I have to drop price, if we have to do an amendment to drop price, let's talk about reducing my commission at that same time.
Yeah, so I love that. I've
So-
actually never had that conversation. That's a good one, because if they listen to you in the beginning and you deliver on the conversation of multiple offers because you've appropriately priced, and if it doesn't happen, they're going to be probably more open to that conversation if you say, and if we don't, we're going to have a commission conversation because I didn't deliver. Now, that's not with somebody who's going to be $100,000 or $200,000 overpriced. We're not going to do that, right?
I
But
wouldn't list it, yeah.
if they listen to you and appropriately price, as we say, don't go on the comps, go on what seems appropriate to gather the most number of buyers we can, who will deliver the most number of robust, as you said, offers. You're going to be happy to pay me that extra $6,000. Actually, you're going to be
Yep.
thrilled to pay me that extra
Yeah.
$6,000. So let's have that conversation if it doesn't work out in that direction. But if you follow my path of success with this plan, it's going to deliver, right? Lisa, I love that word. What is it? Bifurcated?
Bifurcated.
Bifurcated.
You're splitting it. Here's what I'm worth. And then it's up to you how much you want to pay a
The other
buyer.
side. Yeah. So I had a conversation with a buyer the other day coming from Chicago, and she's an attorney, and she asked a question about the lawsuit, which every seller and buyers, not everyone, but a lot of them are, and they are super uneducated on it, but she's an attorney. She kind of knows. I said, I'm right out of the box. You're very familiar with what's going on in the world of real estate commissions. I am a 2.4% buyer's agent. As your agent, I'm a 2.4% buyer's agent. Now, if the seller is willing to pick up some portion of that, you're going to be responsible for, and not 100% of that, you're going to be responsible for the other half. Whether it's 2.4 or 2.0 that they'll pay, you're going to be responsible for the 0.4. Just want to be very clear that that's what my services are worth. And here's all the reasons why, right? We go through the whole history and experience and yada, yada. But so I love that in a listing appointment. Jay, Emily, have you guys ever done that broken out? Okay, here's the buyer agency commission. Here's the seller's commission.
Go ahead, Jay.
No,
'Cause
ladies
I'm
first.
gonna throw a wrench in it.
Oh, I have found recently, now I'm similar to Lisa. I don't wait to have the commission conversation or the co-broke commission. Let's talk about it here, guys. I'm your expert. What I've been finding is by having the conversation about buyer's agent commission, suddenly it's, to Lisa's point, I'm a 3.6%. You're paying me 3.6% to sell your house. Now let's talk about what you want to do for the buyer's agent. And if you choose to discount in that realm, that is 100% your choice. But let's talk about what that's going to do for you and what it's not going to do for you. So what I'm finding is I'm having less and less pressure on going from 6 to 5 when I first say, okay, I'm 3.6%. Now let's talk about the buyer's agent commission that you can or choose not to do. Now, mind you, we've had a couple sellers, not recently, but back when it first came out, said that I'm not offering a co-broke. I don't think I'm your listing agent, because the end result of the sale of your home without offering a co-broke is going to be a very negative experience for you. And I'm not in the habit of delivering a negative experience for my clients. So I would encourage you to find that agent. I would caution you, though, that the buyers that are writing offers are either going to not be using an agent, which is like seller suicide, because that buyer doesn't know what the heck they're doing, or they've got an agent that's not really vested in the outcome of that transaction. So
Wait, let's stay with that for a minute. Have you really said that? I'm not your agent.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
100%. And it's not because I want to respect the agents and I want to keep commission fixed. It's not. I want the best buyers and the best offers in front of you for you to accept. And I use the roof example every time, and usually they agree right away. Like I think pushing on commission as a seller back when it was just 6 versus 5, everybody asks it, and the better you can answer it, the quicker you move on. We as agents get too quick to reduce it. Now with this buyer agent commission, the better you describe it, it's the exact, they want to ask because they heard it on TV. And when you explain it, they're quick to agree. But I always use the roof. The other one I just used was a flipped house. A flipped house sells for a lot more money than a house that needs work, even though a buyer paying for that flipped house is paying hundreds of grand of profit to that flipper, but it's more convenient than saving up money to remodel their house themselves. So why do you can see that's where buyers spend their money. Why would a buyer write a check out to their buyer's agent outside of the closing for the privilege of selling your house where they can go to the next house and do that? They're going to roll it into their 30-year mortgage, not because they can't afford it, because they don't want to.
Right.
Why would I put 20 grand, reduce price 20 grand and I'll put the new roof on after? Says no buyer ever. Buyers want everything rolled into their mortgage.
Right.
So focus on your net number, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, offer a great co-broke commission, and sit down and review the best offers that the market can support.
Right. And truth be told, agents, if they're not compensated, they're not vested as much in the process with you. Right.
Mhm.
It's a slippery slope. There was a prominent agent in Milwaukee who listed right after that lawsuit was announced a couple of weeks ago, listed a very notable house with $1 co-broke. Bit them in the A double whatever. And they ended up not selling. And they reduced the price and they added a co-broke back in.
I showed that property. I would love to read you the text from my buyer about that. Let me just find it real quick. This is unsolicited. I said, hey, I got to get feedback to the agent. What are you thinking? And you guys will love hearing this. Sorry. Hopefully I'm not digressing
Okay,
too
I'll
far.
keep going until you find it. I mean, that was such an amazing opportunity for all of us to watch how the world reacted, because I had a buyer who chose not to look at it because they said, well, that's ridiculous because I'm not going to pay the commission, and what is that seller thinking, and yada, yada, negative attitude about it. And it's just doesn't, if someone's looking at their dream home, they don't want to have to worry about all those little pieces and parts. Make their life easy and they'll bring you a nice offer.
Mhm.
Right? Did you find it, Jay?
Yeah, he said, he gave me some things about the home that was a little bit concerning. He said, but for the $3 million price tag, that weird buyer's agent thing only exacerbated the off-putting experience.
Yeah.
He's like, thanks for investing the time and your expertise, and we'll find the house where you get paid. And again, this is a client I've done multiple properties with. And he's a smart guy. He said, this was before we even showed. He's like, Jay, they're not offering a commission to you. I said, I'm not worried about that. Let's see if it's the right house for you. So like, would I have taken $1 on that one? I might have. Hell no.
Right. No, but I
Yeah.
think it was a really good opportunity for all of us to kind of sort of test our mettle. Like, how are we really going to react to this?
Yeah.
And I was super intrigued by how the market really did respond to it and the conversation that ensued because of it. Glad it wasn't me that had to test the market to see how it went. Glad it was somebody else.
Yeah.
And they also now offer a co-broke and drop price 200 grand.
Right. Full co-broke.
Well,
Yeah.
Maureen, would this be a good opportunity to talk about what Greg Haig is doing in Phoenix?
Sure.
Okay, because come July, if assuming this all goes through, that offer of compensation on MLS is going to go away. So then, what are we all going to do? Because this is around the corner. So what some agents around the country are piloting and playing with that was recommended through 72 Sold is you come up with the seller together what you think the value of the home is, what you think the home should sell at, and then you figure out 2%, 2.5%, 3%, whatever your market normal is, because this is people all across the country talking about this. So we'd figure out what 2.4% would be on top of that. You add that in, and now that's the list price. So
Mhm.
I'm not good at mental math, so if somebody wants to do the math on that. But you know, if the house is worth 350, you all agree, you know, you and the seller agree this house should sell for 350. You tack on 2.4%, you list it at that
80
price. What is it?
8,400.
8,400. Okay. So then now that listing is 358,004, you know, whatever that would be. So then in your first line of your MLS description, you offer a seller is offering a cash concession of $8,400, or in parentheses 2.4%, to the buyer at closing to be used for whatever purpose they want. And if you're doing it right now, you can say
Oh.
that, you know, buyer that can be used to pay, you know, a buyer agent compensation. So now what that does is it attracts, you know, people with buyer agents, and the buyer agents themselves, they can see, okay, that's how I'm getting paid. They've already accounted for me right there. The buyers can be able to pay me. And then for the buyers who are unrepresented, well, cool, I get this cash, you know, I get this awesome credit. Like, I'm attracted to this too. So the other thing is, an offer like that is not it's not binding. So if you get a lowball offer, that's
Mm.
totally negotiable. You can negotiate back and forth. Well, maybe you can have that credit, but the credit is reduced because your offer was reduced. So as far as representing a seller, you know, that's not binding the same way that an offer of compensation on MLS is. So you can have more play with it as far as negotiating an offer. So that's being experimented with. I know my 72 sold coach is in Washington State, and he has one listed that way. And he's going to be reporting back to us like what happens. And now the cool thing is, there was a letter that Fannie Mae put out last week clarifying, and compensation, like if a buyer is going to pay part of a credit towards compensation of their agent, that doesn't count towards the limit. So it doesn't eat into, like, if you're negotiating around like, oh, you know, instead of inspection repairs, we're going to do a credit. So it's separate. So it's pretty cool.
Ah, that's good advice. That's a good strong workaround, actually.
It
Yeah,
makes me nauseous, the idea of listing in public remarks discussion on commission, but it's what I love is that, like, listening to Lisa talk about her business and how she operates, clearly she's an expert. I'm sitting here listening to Lisa as an expert.
Yeah.
So how she presents herself to all of us is exactly how she's presenting herself to her sellers. So if you're sitting there going, dang, I like what Lisa says, like, dang, Lisa sounds better than I do. Practice, get as good as Lisa.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you know, there's nothing from barring us from somebody testing that concept out. I mean,
no,
it's just put in public remarks.
put it both.
Agents will know the conversation with, if I'm having conversation with my buyer through buyer agency, what's the commission? I'll say, this property looks like this property is actually handling it in this fashion.
Mhm.
Right? And so you can, because those buyers aren't going to like that they're going to have to pick up that. And we don't work for free. We work for 3 years with the client. Sometimes they don't even buy. We're working for free. If they land a property, you better believe we're going to get paid for that.
Mhm.
Right?
Absolutely. So this is a great way. I mean, when that field goes away in the MLS, this is a great way to very easily show that we're looking out for the buyer agent. We want them to get paid. And the
Right.
seller's happy because we tacked it on top of the price. So for that seller who's like, I'm not going to pay any buyer agent commission, the lawsuit says I don't have to. Okay, cool. It's on top of the price. This is how we're handling it.
Right. So this is just such a good example, perfect example of we're really not worried about the changes that are about to happen. And look at the panelists right there. They're all like, nope, we're not worried about these changes that are about to happen. Nobody should be concerned about it. But they do have to sharpen their axe in their presentation. As Emily said in the very beginning, I didn't have to defend my commission as much for the past couple of years until now, right? You have to be very good at defending your commission. Rick Rubin said in our last panel, maybe a month or two ago, he said, merit-based compensation, you're either going to land this seller through the strength of your conversations or you're not. So you're either going to be in training, working on your scripts and perfecting your game, or you're not going to get it because it's not just handed to you. Gone are the days where whatever buyer agents walk through the door. Those days are kind of gone.
Yeah.
You got to work for it. And you have to perfect your buyer agency contracts, be very comfortable with it from the get-go. This one I had last weekend, she wanted opinions on like 4 different properties. I said, let's talk about buyer agency contract before I give you any opinions. And she was like, oh, okay. I said, you're an attorney. You're familiar with that is? Yes. I said, we're dating. We're not married. But this is something I have to have before I can give you any opinion on any property. Otherwise, I'm just unlocking the door for you. Right? You have to get very comfortable presenting buyer agency. And if you're not, get into a class because you will not get paid if you not, well, come June, July, you're going to have, everybody's got to have buyer agency, but you have to have a good, strong contract to ensure that you get paid. Right? To land the client, let's get real, just to land a client, to be able to talk the talk.
Yeah.
And to protect your interest, because if you don't have that strong conversation up front and a buyer, oh, I found this property, I really love it, they aren't offering a co-broke, I can't afford to pay you, are you okay if I write without you? No, I educated you on the market. So like we weren't having as in-depth buyer agent conversations with them when they signed. Now we're being very, very clear. I've had it happen where a buyer's like, oh, I bought my aunt's house without you. And we had an active buyer's agent contract and I was actively showing them property. And did I make them pay me a commission? No. But shame on me, I didn't have that strong of a conversation up front. My buyers, when they sign buyer agency, know if you buy a house with or without me, you are paying me a commission. That's where I want to, and then it gives me the opportunity to say, and by the way, these are all of the things I'm doing for you to earn that commission. If you think I'm a cruise director, tour guide, or a doorman, you're undervaluing my value. So let me show you all the other things I do. That's why I'm owed a commission, even if you decide to write on your grandmother's house.
It's honest to God, Jay, you did the preparation for that client to have the comfort to go and buy a house from their aunt for a price that seemed appropriate because you did all the homework with them. You helped them understand the market, perfected their brain and how to go and buy a property, and then they turn around and went and did it. You're due that compensation. Anybody who thinks they're not needs to get into classes, needs a training.
And it's happened to me a few times where a buyer wrote on something without me and I had buyer agency. And what do? I let them go because I didn't have the proper scripts and dialogues in place when they signed that contract.
Right. So interesting. Okay.
Maureen,
Not anymore.
Can I address the people in the crowd who might have aligned themselves when we all shook our heads and said, like, are we worried? No. And if that's you, if you're also not worried, but you might be a little bit like me and maybe a little flippant about what's coming. If that's you, that's okay, because that's also me. And I am challenged to be a balance of like, I'm not worried. I'm not scared for the future of our business. I'm not like going into the deep dark hole and never coming out. But I have historically been like sort of flippant about it and like, it's going to work itself out. It's going to be fine. We'll be fine. Like, I just like thriving on this optimism that I have. So if that's you, I encourage you to take this a little bit more seriously than maybe you would have other things going on in the market. So I am challenged to like actually open this can of worms with clients. The commission conversations, the lawsuit conversations, like I had a buyer consult today, and for the first time in my entire career, and I'm not kidding, this is like not an exaggeration, my team will confirm this, I talked about buyer agency. And I was like, holy wow, like I have never done that before. I've just assumed it and gotten it because of all the other things that I've done, like showing up professionally and understanding the market and like proving my value. I guess it worked, but like, it's not going to work anymore. I just know that. And so I am challenged to really like up my game. And I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest, because that's not what I do. That's not what I love to do. I don't love these conversations, but I know that if I am just the old Emily, it's not going to fly. And all these things, Jay, Lisa, Maureen, everything you're saying is like, oh yeah, I know all that, but do I say all that? No. And
Mhm.
I've got these words have to be coming out of my mouth, and they have to be like, I have to decide in advance that I'm going to say these things. And that's tough for me. That's where my struggle is right now. But I think there's probably other people. I hope, maybe not. Maybe I'm the only one. But I think it's getting serious, and we got to rise to that challenge.
So I love what
Mhm.
you said, because you're right. There's a lot of people on this call, a lot. And you're probably right. I would bet at least half are feeling like you are, right?
Mhm.
And you can't go into this where there's no laissez-faire in this. There's
Right.
no, oh, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. State of Wisconsin does have us protected on a level. We've required buyer agencies a lot longer than almost every other state. There's a lot of things that Wisconsin has done right, that WRA has done right for us, which is amazing. So don't ever worry about paying your WRA dues, because they've done well that direction. But have we done a good enough job as agents ourselves to protect ourselves, right? To sharpen our axe? Or have we just relied on standards of practice and everybody just gets what they get and roll in, and sellers are paying it, and listing agents have to do the hard, the listing agents have had to do the heavy lifting of getting the commission secured for the buyer's agents.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Yep.
Right? We'll do our best, but you have to also do your best, right? It's like, what do they say? Ships. Well, what's that line about? Charlie always,
Ships rise. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, right.
What
Rising
is it, Charlie?
tides.
Yeah.
Rising
Rising tides,
tides. I mean, we all have to do
Yeah.
this together. This is not just on the shoulders of the listing agents like it has been for generations.
Right.
It's now going to be a joint effort, and everybody better sharpen their axe. Or, as we said earlier in this conversation, you're going to be out, because if you don't sharpen your axe, you're definitely going to be out, and you've got something to worry about. So if you're not taking the time to get into script practices, and Jay ran a script practice, what, a week or two ago
2 weeks ago, yeah.
in White, 2 weeks ago. I mean, you see somebody like that who's actively in the game and always improving in his practice, and he's teaching a script practice, you get in the room.
Yeah.
No, non-negotiable. You do whatever it takes to get in that room. And we all say, oh, I have a buyer that wanted to see a house. I have a listing appointment that just jumped in. Guess what? You can say, hey, can I push you back 2 hours? Sure. Can I push you up an hour? Sure. I really need to be at the script practice. I really, whatever it is. I've always been very good at managing my schedule and getting into what I need to get into and moving people around. They don't ever hesitate. Just because they say they want to see a house doesn't mean it has to happen in 5 minutes, right? Prioritize. And if you've got a weakness, you fill that weakness. Otherwise, you're going to struggle in this market, right? We don't say it flippantly that we're going to be fine, because if you're not working on it and perfecting it, you're not going to be fine.
And I think it's our job to thank God we work at Keller Williams, the best teaching and coaching and training company, because I'll be honest, I'm recruiting. We're looking to grow our team. And I talked to a lot of co-brokes at other brokerages, and I'm kind of like, hey, and you come from a place of inquiry, and listening to some of these agents that have no clue how to even handle this lawsuit, how to handle a dialogue with a buyer or seller. And I literally think to myself, shame on that brokerage. They're doing nothing to help their agents other than take their split. Whereas, like, I don't know, yes, when the lawsuit first came out, it was a rough 36 hours for me. I'll be honest, because I'm like, oh my God, half of our business is buyers. That commission's going to go away. How many people do I have to let go off of my team? Like, what am I going to do? To then, by the middle of that following week, listening to not the idiots on Instagram, but literally listening to the brilliant people at KW. I'm like, got this. Let's go.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I
And-
have a question, Jay, a follow-up question to what you said, because I have this like feeling, or I guess it's just like this negative energy around the industry, that like us good agents, high quality agents, are at the mercy of the low quality agents. And if other people out there don't do their job, then I'm stuck with that conversation that I have to have about the buyer commission. Everything makes my job harder. So how do you reconcile that? How are you reconciling that?
Luckily, I have a big mouth, and I'll talk to everybody. Co-broke wise, I'll talk to everybody and anybody about it. I love my teammate Janine. I was listing a condo in a building, and an agent had 2 condos in that building listed. One was 2% commission and one was 1.5% commission. Now, and of course I'm sitting there, what the heck? Jean's like, hold on, picks up the phone. She goes, hey buddy, we're about to list a property in your building. I just kind of want to understand, how did your conversations go on commission? Because I see a low co-broke being offered. Not, why did you do that? What are you doing? It's costing us business, costing us money. Came from a, help me understand that. Oh, had a little dialogue with that listing agent. I think at the end of the conversation, she gave something back to them. That is honestly my biggest concern. Weak agents will discount their commission left and right, whether it's on the buy or sell side. Now, the buyer who's working for little or no commission, that job ain't going to stay out there long. You're driving around working months and months and writing offer to offer and not getting a commission at the end. You're not going to survive. But you're absolutely right. So I'm taking it as an opportunity to have a conversation with as many co-brokes as I can. I'm in the middle of about to write an offer on a Belinsky property, and the agent called me and said, hey, we're taking our co-broke down to 2%. I said, okay, it's unfortunate. My buyer will have to decide how they cover that 0.4% because I am a 2.4% agent. And he's like, will you do me a favor? Will you put that in writing? And I said, nah, I'm not supposed to put stuff in writing, but it's not public. So I emailed the sales guy and I said, I respect Belinsky's position. You guys sell a lot of real estate. Please respect mine. This 0.4% may not be a lot to you, but my buyer now has to have another thought about how he wants to offer on this property. And he's a young guy, and every dollar matters. Yeah. So he said, he's like, well, maybe I won't do my patio. I said, no, maybe we write the offer with 2.4% in it and let them reject it.
So what happened?
We haven't written yet, but I will use Joan's recommendation and put in the offer to purchase that at buyer's request, seller to pay Keller Williams a 2.4% commission upon a successful closing. Not, make sure you remember that. If you guys didn't catch Joan saying that, go back and listen to that pearl of wisdom she gave. It's not a request from me to the seller. It's on the buyer's request.
Right.
I used to just put, like on a for sale by owner, I would put sellers agree to pay Keller Williams a 2.4% co-broke or success fee. Not supposed to do that because that's coming from me. It's at buyer's request, sellers to pay. So you have to put in there that your buyer's the one that's directing you to put that commission conversation in the offer.
Well, and keeping in mind that even assuming everything goes through as presented in July, you can still do that in an offer, even if no offer of there will be no offers of compensation on MLS. That doesn't mean you can't write one into an offer that way and that people won't do that. So, and you can still, I mean, a seller can still offer buyer compensation. And then what you might want to do is, like what we do is we skip align showings, we skip showing time. Agents call me when they want to see a property I have listed. Well, if you do that too, then there's an opportunity for you to make clear if there's compensation and what that amount is.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So we have a question in the crowd. Tori wanted to know have you run into any appraisal issues, or do you think we will have appraisal conversations to an offer?
I think that question might be related to like the tacking on top of the price. And yeah, in this market with what people are paying over at this point right now, the high comps we're getting right now, I'm not super concerned about that. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not coming up with a ton of appraisal issues.
The good agents that are helping their good buyers get properties are putting appraisal gaps in there. So it's unfortunate. And this whole lawsuit is not reducing the cost of buying or selling a home.
Right.
Can I clarify that a little bit?
Sure.
So Jay, I really appreciated what you said in regards to keeping the list price somewhere in the middle, not going for the jugular and the long end. And, so then more offers will come in. So that gives us that cushion, but we're always we're not always going to be in the current market that we're in. Therefore, there may not always be appraisal gaps. So
Mhm.
that's my concern in the long run. That's where that thought process goes or comes from for me.
I would think if a market shifts and it becomes more of a buyer's market, sellers are going to be very willing to give whatever they need to give to get an offer done. So I think it's neither side wins in any transaction. It's a negotiation. And in a stronger seller's market, buyers got to give a bit more. It could shift back and forth. Imagine the day when it's a seller's market and sellers go, well, if the standard's 2.4, why don't I offer 4% buyer co-broke? Let's go. You just never know.
So Jordan just put something in the comments, which is great. New agents, this is their new normal, right? They have no experience with anything else. This is how they're learning how to run their business, right? Which is the right way to run the business, right? Defending your commission on all levels, not just taking the 2.4 that a seller's willing to pay and expecting that's how you're going to get compensated. You have to actually defend that on all levels. And you're right. It's those that are getting trained now, they're in the training room, they're listening, they're script practicing, they're getting comfortable with it. Those that have been in the business a long time. Actually, truth be told, those that have been in the business for more than 15 years have seen so many ups and downs that they're like, whatever. It's those that have been in the business for the last 8 years that are going, what?
Yeah.
8 years, we've had a strong market. Wait, we've never been challenged. Wait, what? That's the time frame that's probably the most challenged in my opinion. I've been around longer than 15 years and I'm like, ugh, are you kidding? I was around in the 2008 crash. You've seen it all and you've learned how to script practice around it and guide your people the way that they needed to be guided. And open and honest and transparent has always been the win in all things in life, right?
Yeah.
It's just is forcing us to do it in a way we've never had to do it before, but it actually makes a lot of sense to me.
And not just longevity in the market, Maureen, but also like I've seen multiple markets, and so the commissions are different, as Lisa, wherever she went, alluded to, like around the country, these markets offer different, like sort of culturally accepted commissions, right? So in Chicago, it's always been 2.5%. So I got up here, I'm like 2.4, what the heck? You guys are like cheap up here. And then in Wapaka, where we also work, like 1.8 is kind of standard. So it's like every little like nuanced market has a different like standard for what they're offering. So no matter if you've been in the market a long time or you've been in multiple markets or the market's shifting, like it's always a challenge to figure out how to have these conversations. Like it's like ever changing. So the second you think you got it down, it's like, oh crap, now there's something new coming at us. So the constant battle is change. It always will be. And this is just what it is right now.
Right. And in this business, you've got to be comfortable with change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're going to die.
And
right? If you're not growing, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the change, but then also the belief that the change is for the good. Because I think it's like, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, this sucks. But it only sucks because I don't want to work harder. But it doesn't suck for the industry and it doesn't suck for the buyers and the sellers. And ultimately, it's a good thing. So if we have belief that this absurd like amount of training we have to do and conversations like this is all actually good, then everything becomes easier.
I had Maureen and Friends last week. I had Linda McKissick, and two things I really knocked me off my block. One thing she said, she and her husband were in a conversation with Gary Keller. I thought this was funny. He said, you know what? There's one thing that makes that is different between you guys and me. Just one thing. And she said, oh, what, a couple zeros in our net worth? She was just laughing. She's like, probably a couple zeros in our net worth. He said, no, the difference maker is you've perfected the investment category and I've perfected people. Period. The win is in the people. If we understand people, we listen to people, we perfect our game, we understand what our role is, identify our strengths, know what our weaknesses are, get after it, you're going to win because the win is actually in the people.
Yeah.
Right. And to be good at this business, you have to be good at working with people. It does not mean being statistically super smart. You have to be good at working with people, being good at a good listener, prepared, helping people move forward. I thought that was fascinating. Then the other thing she said, and I've heard this before, but it really hit home with me, is the world does not succeed going like this. If you are challenging yourself, if you're challenging yourself, you're going like this. And if you're really a risk taker, you're going this or this. Nobody goes this way. You got one choice. You're going to either go up or you're going to go down. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Right. But thinking anything's ever going to stay the same, you're going to fail in everything in life. Right. So as soon as you can grab hold of that in this business and say, okay, what's the change today? What do I need to do today to explode my business? What do I need to do today? And go and do those activities. And they're so simple, right? Reach out to people, connect with people, be a good listener. The activities are not difficult. You just have to actually go do them.
Mhm.
Right. All right, Lisa, Emily, as we wrap up, anything, or not Lisa, Jay, Lisa must have popped off. She was, oh, there she is.
I'm back. I'm
You're
back. Yeah, sorry. My
Right.
phone got too hot.
Oh, any last words of wisdom?
Whew. Perfect your skills. Skills-based market.
Yep.
Those that are skilled are gonna continue to grow.
Yep. We have a saying on our team, and it's lead with your brain. So I think we gotta just like what Jay said, skills, like flashy, shiny objects is not gonna win. You gotta be smart. You gotta know what you're talking about. And if you do that and you put the time and energy into really understanding what's going on and being able to communicate it, like that's gonna be the win.
Yeah.
And I would, one thing, I'm sorry, we had our ALC meeting for North Shore this morning, and Mandy Caddy gave out, if you guys have heard of a 75 hard for working out, she gave us a 75 hard for agents. If Willis is listening or someone, we got to get that shared to everybody, because I'm an old man. I'm like, I can't do a 75 hard, so I might do like a 35 and a half soft.
I'm
But it
on,
was-
Jay. If
it was-
anyone wants it, shoot me an
oh,
email.
Mandy, it was like I've had this. I've been like scribbling all over it today. Like, what am I gonna do for this? So, guys, go look at it. And if you aren't willing to do 50% of it, if you can do all 75 of it, you're a better human being than I am. But it really challenged me today to like get out of my way, start doing some work, get off of Facebook. This is me, what I said to myself: get off of Facebook. Stop going and puttering on your house instead of lead generating, because I have a million reasons I can do that and I have justification for everything. Just do this. So thank you for kicking me in the butt, Mandy.
Yeah, I would agree. I first looked at the list in that meeting this morning. I'm like, oh, this doesn't look so hard. Then I got to do a CMA every day, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I don't know if I'm going to do that. Wait,
Right.
I've got to do what? I mean, it's not easy, but it's the basics, and all you have to do is go do them.
Mhm.
Right. Hey, before we come off, I am actually in Tosa in one of these, this is my first time holding a Zoom in one of these booths. This is awesome. We're going to try to put these in all of our offices, but this is incredible. I love it. And I can't hear a single word other than I know Mike Weber is right out there. He's on the call. There he is. I saw, I'm like, hey, Mike. But this is cool. So if you have a chance to come and do a meeting in one of these rooms or make some calls, these things are amazing. All right. Thanks for your time, you guys, panelists. I really appreciate your insight, your super valuable mindset on getting this job, doing this job, and everybody go on and take on the day and get that 75 hard moving.
Boy,